Bradley Jones is going to be on your left. He's playing mono blue. He's going to get this ball rolling with a Cloudfriend Raptors. Round 3 is underway here in Columbus. See if Anderson has a turn 1 play. Oh, just arguably the best one in the format with a Thought Seize. Todd's going to lay out this hand for us at home so we can take a look. 2 Nightveil Spectre, a Judge's Familiar, a Thassa, and an Island. And I've been on both sides of this matchup recently because I'm playing a lot of Magic Online and streaming it. Get the Thassa. Get it gone. It's too good.
So Todd going to mull over here. I imagine it's between Judge's Familiar and Thassa. I think there's an argument for possibly taking Judge's Familiar if you're just going to go down the pack rat route and try to just race, but
he's going to take the birdie. All right.
I like it.
Judge's Familiar's never been so good as Brad's going to draw a card. No attacks here with the Raptor. Pass the turn back.
I think
Todd
it means he
draws.
either has another Thought Seize or he's pack ratting. Yeah,
okay, another Thought Seize.
That makes sense.
I think he's going to see a Thassa was drawn here. So 2 Thassas, 2 Nightveil Spectres. Yikes. He's going to take a Spectre. He ain't afraid no Thassa. Here's a Temple.
Comes a big draw for Bradley here. If it's an island, this can get
That a Temple?
Brutal.
Wow. Is there a splash going on here, perhaps?
Oh, yeah. We're in the black-blue build.
All right. Haven't seen this one for a little while. He's got Hero's Downfall, 2 copies in the main deck. His splash is Watery Grave, Temple of Deceit. And then he has 2 copies of Nykthos as well. So basically, the reason you're going to see that land in his deck is so that he is able to, you know, maybe cast some of the spells that he draws off of a Nightveil Spectre. As Anderson's going to play a Spectre of his own. You see Jones has his out there. Anderson draws a Hero's Downfall for the turn. Also has a Mutavault in his hand already, too. So, see what Todd wants to do on this turn.
Desecration Demon is very hit or miss against Mono Blue Devotion. In my mind, sometimes it's too slow to the party and it doesn't match up well once a Master of Ways resolves and is unchecked. But there are also sometimes, if it comes out early like this, where it's just too big, too fast for Mono Blue Devotion to handle. So, to me, this is one of the board states where Desecration Demon has historically been very good against Mono Blue.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it pretty well, that it really fluctuates to how good of a card it is in this matchup. There are times where it's unbeatable, and it's an absolute pain, and you have to have a Rapid Hybridization or a Cyclonic Rift to slow it down. Other times, you have Master Waves, or you're already pressuring them so much that you don't actually care that the 6/6 flyers out there.
Yeah, it's definitely a really high variance card against opposing decks with a lot of creatures. I know, playing a lot of mono red myself, there's sometimes where Desecration comes down and I'm like, well, I'm dead now. There's times where it gets played and I'm like, well, he's dead now because I have so much trash in play that I can now tempo in.
Yeah, it's really strange how that card fluctuates from being like unbeatable to who cares that you actually cast it. Yeah. It looks like Todd is appealing a ruling right now, so we'll figure out once we do know from our table spotter exactly what is in question, and what the ruling ends up being. But again, Todd Anderson, I think a face that everyone is familiar with. You do see him on the right with his sweet mohawk asking a question. Most Open Series top 8s of any player ever. You would think that title belongs to Jerry Thompson. But no, it's Todd Anderson with the most Open Series top 8s since the inception of this circuit. Does a lot of winning when he comes to these events.
I believe it was something involving an Evolve trigger, if I had to guess.
Yeah, it has something to do with a Thassa here, as Todd is going to turn over a Master of Waves that Nightveil Spectre, play a Mutavault, and hey!
Next turn could be really good.
We could bust out some Elementals on the other side of things.
So, Bradley's going pretty deep with his splasher.
Yeah, the question, the thing that was in question was if you have the necessary devotion, and you cast a Thassa, does it trigger Cloudfriend Raptor? The answer is yes. So if that Nightveil Spectre was over there in Cloudfriend Raptor, and then you cast Thassa, and then it's the 5th devotion, does it actually trigger? And it does come into play as a creature, so it will trigger the Evolve.
Yeah, the text box is live once it's in play, so it's either is or it's not a creature. Basically, the split second it comes into play.
Cyclonic Rift going to be turned over here for the Nightveil Spectre. That Temple of Deceit is looking really good right now. We'll see what Anderson wants to cast this turn. Again, he's got the Desecration Demon. He can cast Master Waves. That's exactly what he's going to cast. Devotion's going to be for 4. So 4 Elementals are going to come in on Anderson's side of the board. Bet you weren't expecting that today,
These
Bradley.
Scry lands, it's easy to feel, it could be one or the other. Doesn't really matter. Definitely the blue-black one chosen with this matchup in mind.
Yeah, I mean, of course, they have access to the black-white one, and soon they'll have access to more of them if they would like to, if you're mono-black devotion, but choosing not to. Did you see Jones does have Hero's Downfall in his hand? That's what the splash is for, and he would like to be able to cast that so he could take care of that Master of Waves, but he can't right now as Judge's Familiar is going to come in.
Splashing a black card off of 8 dual lands is risky enough. Splashing a double black card,
Yeah.
even riskier.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is not the first time that Jones has been stuck with a Hero's Downfall in his hand. See, Mutavault's going to get fired up here, and everything's going to come in the red zone. Don't forget that Mutavault is a 3/3 due to Master of Waves.
Tom moves it over into the elemental pile.
See how the blocks are going to go here. Judge's Familiar looks like it wants to get its block on. Maybe Cloudfin Raptor will do the same.
Also, Todd would keep in mind a Cyclonic Rift under that Night Veil Spectre, again, which is castable off its blue black duel. So
Judge's Familiar is going to bite the dust. Anderson's going to deal 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. Going to put Jones down to 5. He's going to play a land. Here's a Desecration Demon. And it looks like Anderson is in the driver's seat. He's going to pass the turn back to Jones. Jones is going to scry with his Thassa. Going to put that top card to the bottom. So he's going to need a good one here to get back into it. Looks like a Tidebinder Mage off the top. That's not what we were looking for.
it was a pretty straightforward beating, and that Night Veil Spectre was very generous to Todd this game.
It wins games on its own a lot of the time. It does so there, too. So Todd Anderson's going to win game number 1 here over Bradley Jones. Mono Black Devotion up a game over Mono Blue Devotion. We'll take a look at the sideboards here. I've got Bradley Jones in front of me. 1 Cyclonic Rift to go along with 4 Dissolves, 2 Domestication, 2 Aetherling, a Ratchet Bomb, 3 copies of Ultimate Price, and 2 Jace Architect of Thought. So he does have some additional removal, and Ultimate Price is actually pretty good here.
Yeah, kills Pack Rat, which is one of the more troubling cards for Mono Blue Devotion to play against. Also kills Desecration Demon as well. So a couple good targets in Todd's deck.
Jace Architect of Thought is okay in this matchup, but not great. The card you're really looking to see is, additional Bident of Thoughts in the sideboard. There are 2 in the main deck, but none in the sideboard. Cyclonic Rift is certainly all right, depending on how your draw goes. Can slow down a Pack Rat, slow down Desecration Demon, buy some time on a Night Veil Spectre. So I actually kind of like bringing that in. And Domestication is a card that I've seen a lot of people bringing in this matchup because you can take a Night Veil Spectre, turn on Devotion, but also just the fact that they don't have that as a blocker is important. You can also take a Pack Rat with it and slow down their Pack Rat, mess with the combat math, all of those things. I haven't been in love with it in this matchup, honestly. It's pretty expensive for what it does.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that the Mono Blue deck has a lot of 4-mana cards that they want to go to. So you're competing against Bidens, you're competing against Jace. If you want to leave in Master Waves, you're competing against that as well. So Domestication certainly has spots of being very good, but again, it's competing with a lot of different cards.
I think one thing about Domestication really quickly before we move over to Anderson's sideboard is I think the times where you cast Domestication and it's good really stick out in your mind, as opposed to the times where you were stuck with Domestication in your hand, you can't take something, or you cast it and you're just like, I don't have much of a choice. You remember the good moments with it, and you don't remember the bad ones.
Very swingy card, for sure. Todd appears to be playing basically very close to the same 75 as Brad Nelson, who he had on camera in round 1. A couple of differences here. He has a sideboard of 3 Lightbane Zombies, 3 Dark Betrayal, 2 Erebus, 3 Duress, 2 Doom Blades, and 2 Pharika's Cures. I expect basically the additional removal, the Doom Blades and the Cures to come in. I know that some people really like bringing in Lightbane Zombie in this matchup. I know Owen Turnwald is an advocate for doing that, so I'm curious to see if Todd's going to go down that road as well. A lot of the Mono Black players, also whether or not they like Thoughtseize in the matchup is a big question mark, because the Mono Blue deck is pretty redundant. But that being said, they do also have a couple of really critical cards in the matchup. So if you get to tag Thassa, a lot of their hands don't really pan out very well. If you take their one Bident and so on, but they also are attacking you, and a lot of their draws are just creatures, where Thoughtseize is not the best thing to be doing.
Yeah, it kind of varies, right? Like, if we take a look at just that last game and examine it, how good were the 2 Thoughtseizes that Todd cast that game?
They were okay.
Yeah, it didn't seem like they were great. I mean, one of them took a Judge's Swinger to slow down a Cloudfin Raptor. The other one took a Night Veil Spectre, which, again, was okay, but it's not really all that exciting. At the same time, though, with how powerful Thassa is in this particular matchup and how it can swing a game, it's almost like you want to have Thoughtseize almost just for that card. Same can be said after sideboard because of Biden.
Yeah. Don't get, Todd obviously won that game, and by the end it looked like pretty convincing fashion. If Bradley has an untapped blue source of mana on turn 3, that game may go very differently.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. And it was really surprising to see him roll off a Temple of Deceit there. And the big question now, if you're on Anderson's side, is, okay, what is that Temple for? Because if you think about Mono Blue, and you take a look at Sam Black's list or Tyler Wilkerson's from last week, you see a million islands, you see Mutavaults, and you might see a Nykthos hiding out there, and that's it. you don't see temples ever hiding out in this deck.
Yeah, the blue deck is much more about play something on 1, play something on 2, play something on 3, play something on 4.
Yeah.
Where it's hard to fit a Scryland in your curve. The black deck usually has a hole in its curve, or it has, you know, turn 3 I can play a Hero's Downfall, and then turn 4 I can play Night Veil Spectre and a Scryland.
Yeah.
Things like that. Or I don't have a Thoughtseize in my opening hand, so I can just play my Scryland. The blue deck is much more sensitive.
We're underway here in game number 2. Bradley Jones starts off with a Judge's Familiar. One card you're going to see in Anderson's hand right now, I believe, was a Dark Betrayal.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit surprising, but Night Veil Spectre is a juicy target for that, as there is a Temple of Deceit. And there looks like Jones is going to pass in a moment.
Sorry, there is an argument for also just trying to overload removal against mono blue as well.
Yeah.
If their best cards against you are Bidens, and you know, it makes sense to just want to kill everything that enters play, even if you get stranded sometimes. And you always have Pack Rat as a discard outlet as well.
Anderson just plays a Swamp. He's going to pass the turn back. Does have a Devour Flesh at the ready. See, Jones does have a Watery Grave, so an attack for 1 is where we're going to begin. See if Anderson's going to fire the Devour Flesh off, and he is. So Judge's Familiar is going to bite the dust there, going to gain a life. Will Jones going to go up to 21. We'll see what he wants to deploy this turn. So he goes down to 19. And now this is a Thassa. So one of the most, if not the most important cards in the matchup has now been deployed here on Jones's side.
And there's a Domestication in Bradley's hand too, so if he finds an untapped land here, this could be really good.
Anderson going to play a Night Veil Spectre. We're just going to see if he can find that untapped land. He can't. He does find a Hero's Downfall, which is an answer to that Night Veil Spectre. The question is, would he rather try to take it or just kill it?
Yeah, a good question here.
All right, here's an attack. So Hero's Downfall is going to be the choice here for Jones, and I'm sure Anderson is a little bit surprised to see that come up.
Yeah, now it's okay. I don't really exactly know what I'm playing against.
I'm just going to pass the turn back, Will Anderson. So Thassa is going to take a look at the top card of the deck. That's going to go to the hand. Island's going to come into play. We'll see what this 4-mana spell is going to be. It's going to be a Bidens. So Jones is getting, you know, everything kind of established so he can start drawing cards and just doing what this deck tries to do after sideboard. His Mutavolt's going to come in here for Anderson. Going to knock Jones down 2 more points of damage and pass the turn.
Yeah, this is the way the mono blue wants to play the matchup here. Now he's threatening turning on Thassa on a lot of turns with any sort of double blue spell, and any creature he connects with is really bad for Todd as Biden's now in play. So
yeah, the interesting thing here for Jones is he's got a bunch of cards in his hand, but they're redundant or can't be used. There's another copy of Thassa, another copy of Biden, and then Domestication, as Anderson's going to attack here for 2. Going to put Jones down to 15. Going to put this land in play tapped. It is a Temple after all. Put the top card right to the bottom and pass the turn.
Non-creature permanents are a pretty good way of trying to fight Mono Black Devotion.
Well, there's a Tidebinder Mage. And that can't turn on Thassa, but I don't expect that to last very long. Excuse me, it's a Night Veil Spectre. And we know that's not going to last very long either because of the Dark Betrayal in Anderson's hand, so he's going to kill that. Going to pass the turn back to Anderson. Todd draws another copy of Mutavault, so he can keep getting aggressive here if he'd like.
These Mutavaults are great draws for Todd, as, you know, if he plays anything small, it's possible that Domestication just happens.
There's a Gray Merchant going to come in, a small one, just a gain and drain of 2, but he's whittling away the life total.
Yeah, although right now I would expect this to get tagged with a Domestication.
Yeah.
This is a great spot for Bradley.
Going to put that top card to the bottom. Let's see what he finds here. It's an ultimate price. This is a juicy Domestication target, as you did mention. You get to take that, you get to turn on your Thassa, you get to draw some cards. So Gray Merchant's going to go over there, and it will be untapped. Domestication does turn on the Devotion in for 5 from Thassa. Anderson's going to go down to 16, and for Bradley, he's going to draw a card. There's a land which allows him to cast ultimate price now too. So a good sequence there.
Yeah. This is the Blue Game's plan after board here. It's really hard to win just by casting random creatures because the Black Devotion deck has so much removal, so you need to set up these kind of boards.
And we talked about Desecration Demon during game 1 and how it kind of ranges from being great to mediocre. This is one of those games where it's rather mediocre. Ultimate Price is going to take that down. And you see Todd, a little bit of a pause here again because he's just like, what's going on here?
What is going on is a great question.
You have black in your deck for double black spells. It's rather strange, but they're good right now. You see Cyclonic Rift going to be the draw here for Jones after putting the top card to the bottom. Attackers. Double blocking with Mutavault here.
Good block by Todd, as this allows him to get the Domestication off of the table, which shuts down the Devotion. So
But a replacement domestication is what Jones does draw. However, he cannot add to the board here, so Anderson's kind of out from underneath, the Thassa right now. Mutavault's going to come in, going to knock Jones down to 9. Anderson just passes the turn back with a Pharika's Cure in his hand as Jones is going to take a look at the top card of his deck. He's going to add Master of Waves to his hand. He's going to play that, but we know that's not going to be long for this world.
So we're going to resolve that. And this is you know, the way that Mono Black can kind of fight the boards of Mono Blue is keeping them off of devotion, using your removal. And these Mutavaults are going to let Todd apply a lot of pressure here.
Pharika's Cure going to take care of Master of Waves, but more importantly, it's actually going to move Anderson up to a more comfortable life total here. So it's going to take Thassa a little more work to get the job done. A Doomblade off the top here from Anderson, going to attack for 2, going to put Jones down to 7. You see Anderson's hand right now, Swamp, Doomblade, Hero's Downfall. So the next couple of creatures, again, are in check. He's got 5 mana to be able to cast both spells if he needs to. And that Mutavault is really causing a problem right now. Nightveil Spectre, the draw here for Jones. And in most cases, that would be a good draw, but again, not exciting in this situation. Thassa going to come in, Hero's Downfall going to say, you don't get to deal me damage. Thank you very much. Pass the turn back as Anderson's going to draw a card. I believe it was the rat that packs.
It is a pack rat.
So here's an attack for 2. Jones is going to go down to 5. Does Anderson want to deploy the pack rat? He does. Now that is a domestication target. So we'll see what ends up happening here. As Jones is going to untap, he's going to scry with Thassa. We'll see if he finds what he's looking for.
And keep in mind, Bradley has black mana to actually make rats of his own too. So this is no mere removal spell.
And he draws a Mutavault too. So now things are going to get very interesting because here's a domestication to take the pack rat. Todd says, in response, discard the swamp. I'll make one of my own. But now Thassa's on. Cyclonic Rift is going to bounce that. So no more pack rats here for Anderson. And here's the big question, does Thassa attack or not? The answer is no, it's going to play defense this go around.
I like playing defense for 1 turn because if Bradley gets to untap, he's got a really good shot at winning this game. You know, just take your time and don't get killed by something like Grey Merchant here.
Desecration Demon off the top for Anderson, that comes into play. Don't forget about that Doomblade, that's his last card. But it's not looking great right now. Let's see what Jones wants to do on his turn.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if he wants to try to just, you know, pin down the Desecration Demon here with pack rat tokens and keep connecting with Thassa, building up the board a little bit. He has enough mana to make 2 rats a turn, and he has enough cards in his hand, especially if he's triggering his Biden, to never run out of fuel.
Looks like he's going to make his Thassa unblockable at this point. Desecration Demon trigger goes on. He's not going to sacrifice anything. Going to come across for 5. Going to knock Anderson down to 8. And did he draw a card? I don't think he did.
Okay, he may have forgotten a Biden trigger.
Okay. Pass the turn back. That's an important miss trigger actually at this point. It's gonna discard to pack rat and sacrifice that, or at least gonna try to. That's gonna actually work. Gonna activate the Mutavault. Gonna come into the red zone here. Gonna attack for 2. Put Anderson. Anderson's gonna put Jones down to 3.
So now Grey Merchant is lethal.
See what Jones finds.
This one's a sweat.
It's a close game. It really, really is. And again, that missed Biden trigger might actually do Jones in here, which would be rather unfortunate for him, honestly. Be a tough way to go. Take a draw. There's an island.
Well, he does have... No, he can make the rat unblockable and Thassa unblockable.
Unblockable, unblockable.
Yeah, this is
okay, yeah, so this is exactly lethal. Yep, so 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, okay, so he does have exactly lethal. I think the land off the top is what does it in. And Bradley Jones is going to win this game. We'll move on to a 3rd and final one between these 2 players.
And that Thassa into Biden setup is so critical for Mono Blue.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to be able to get a huge board going unless you totally run away with the game. Getting Thassa's Devotion turned on is going to be a challenge. You're not going to have it on for the entire game. But every time you play a double blue card, either Todd having to have removal on the spot or you getting to connect with your Thassa and draw a card is huge for the blue Devotion player.
And you saw Todd in that game do a pretty nice job of just keeping the Devotion off for Thassa. And Jones was kind of stuck with some cards in his hand, additional copies of both Thassa and her Bident. However, Domestication really wins that game on its own. And again, you can see how powerful that card can be in this matchup, having Nightveil Spectre and Pack Rat as targets, but more importantly, providing you with 2 blue Devotion to turn Thassa into a real card.
Yeah, you can see Todd going to his sideboard right now and actually removing Nightveil Spectre. Bradley hasn't touched his sideboard from what I can tell, and so he's going to have a bunch of Domestications in his deck that are going to potentially be really inefficient, only able to take Grey Merchant and Pack Rat in some really weird corner case scenarios. Todd going back in and putting Underworld Connections back into the deck.
You know, with Anderson on the play this game, maybe he just wants to get the card advantage engine online and play more of a control role. Maybe he feels like he can out-control his opponent. Because, I mean, if he's boarding out Spectre and boarding back in Connections, it sounds like to me he's taking a more controlling approach.
Yeah, removal plus Connections against an opponent that still has Domestication in their deck potentially is a really good game plan.
And just try to blank Domestication the best you can, which it looks like that's what he's trying to do. I mean, Pack Rat is the only target now with Desecration Demon. I guess Grey Merchant is a target. I do take that back, but Grey Merchant will actually, get its work done.
Right. You care much less about Domestication on a Grey Merchant than you do against a Nightveil Spectre, that's for sure. And
I also think Connections does a couple things now that he's boarding it in. One, it gives him a card advantage engine, but 2, it actually gives him, more stable copies of Grey Merchant. With Nightveil Spectre, of course, your Grey Merchants are going to be better, but by boarding those out and boarding in Connections, you're making his Domestications work, you're making Cyclonic Rift worse, and you're making it so that your Grey Merchants are actually a little bit better and more stable in these games.
Yeah, keep in mind, he's playing against a deck that he's seen Cyclonic Rift. Reasonable to assume Rapid Hybridization is in the deck.
Yeah.
Grey Merchant can be a critical part of the game plan, but your creature permanents are not necessarily the most reliable here, so Underworld Connections gives you, like you said, more stability in trying to set up a big Grey Merchant.
Yeah, it's an interesting plan because a lot of people just go towards Underworld Connections, they board it out right away, and then they go about their business on what they want to board in, given the matchup. But to bring it back in here is kind of interesting, and we'll see if it does work out for Anderson. We do know, again, Grand Prix Albuquerque, top 4 with Mono Black. Grand Prix Louisville, won by Brian Braun to win with Mono Black. But Todd also made top 8 that tournament. He's had a lot of success with this deck over the past couple of months, so you can believe that he knows it in and out.
And Mono Black is definitely a deck that rewards you for recognizing the patterns, basically. It kind of executes the same game plan each time, depending on the matchup. The cards are very, they're catch-alls in a lot of different situations, and so being conscious of mana efficiency is really critical, and definitely a deck that rewards repetition, as you see Todd take a mulligan.
It looks like Bradley is happy with the 7, but a quick mulligan there from Todd, so hand must have been pretty bad. Yeah. Sent that one back immediately. But again, it's also this experience factor, right, where you know exactly what hands you're looking for, especially in the sideboard of Game 3 when you're on the play.
Yeah. And, he has Underworld Connections back in his deck, so he has a little more luxury on taking a mulligan as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, the instinct is definitely to remove Underworld Connections because your light toll is under duress and all that kind of stuff. But the mono blue deck really slows down in these post-board games, kind of out of necessity because they're playing against so much removal, and also because they're proactively trying to set their deck up to be more of a card advantage board presence deck. And so the mono blue deck's configuration is a lot different in the post-board games than it is in the pre-board games. At least it feels that way to me pretty often. And so even if Underworld Connections is poor in game 1, it's likely to be better in the post-board games based on the way that mono blue typically sideboards.
All right, so let's take a look at 6 cards here for Anderson. Thoughtseize, Swamp. I think he's happy enough. He's going to lead off with the discard spell. So here is a grip of 3 islands. You see Todd's going to turn towards himself, make sure he's got all the information here. There's a Ratchet Bomb, there's a Frostburn Weird, there's a Judge's Familiar. So a pretty good hand here from Jones, a hand you're certainly going to keep every single time because your hand can just pan out depending on how the draws go. The question is, what do you take with this Thoughtseize?
I don't know.
The bomb, okay.
I guess he's on Underworld Connections this game?
Could be a Connections game, could be a Pack Rat game. You see Judge's Familiar. Yep. It looks like a Pack Rat game, yep. Looks like he's going to try to steal a quick one here. Temple of Deceit off the top here for Jones, but he doesn't have a black removal spell just yet. He's going to actually play Island. He's going to get the Frostmourne Weird down, attack for one in the air. Going to put Anderson down to 17. Todd going to quickly untap. Does he find a land? He does not. That's kind of close because he doesn't find a land, but he doesn't find an additional copy of Pack Rat.
Sure.
So that's actually kind of like finding a land.
Yeah. It puts a lot of pressure on him to find it next turn, though, that's for sure. There's one way to beat Pack Rat. It's through the air, and you see Bradley's picked up a Cloudfin Raptor. Todd's hand's pretty bad outside of these Pack Rats. I mean, he's got a Devour Flesh that's quickly becoming worthless. He has a Grey Merchant that he's nowhere near casting, so...
Jones looks to the top card and keeps it on top very, very quickly. That's got to be a little bit scary. Here's another copy of Frostmourne Weird. And he's going to attack for one. Anderson draws a card. There's the Swamp. We got a game of Magic here.
Well, yes and no. I mean, Todd may cast very little, possibly zero spells for the remainder of the game and just try to go all the way with these rats.
Well, here's a Master of Waves. See, the devotion count's going to be 6. So 6 elementals are going to come to play. I'm not sure how long the Master Waves is going to be here.
It's very rare that you see mono black with just no answer to a Master of Waves, but that's where Todd's at right now with a hand of Devour Flesh, Desecration Demon, and Grey Merchant.
Well, that's what the top of the deck's for. Duh.
Duh.
Discard the Devour Flesh.
Even in that world, every turn that Todd spends using his mana to do something other than making a rat is really good for Bradley.
I agree. Anderson draws a Thoughtseize for the turn. Not of much use here. Now, he can make another Pack Rat. That'll give him 4/4/4, so that allows him to actually kind of trump this Master pretty well. But he's kind of pigeonholed into doing the same thing every turn, which is, yeah, just fire off the old Pack Rat every turn. Don't have much of a choice.
Yeah. Certainly at this stage of the game, making a rat is way better than nearly anything else he can do other than killing Master Waves if he ever draws a card that allows him to do so.
A Cloudfin Raptor, and now another copy of Master Waves is going to be double evolution. You see the devotion count. Ton more elementals are going to be coming into play, and this is getting ugly here.
And now not even a removal spell off the top does very much for Todd.
Yep.
As the second Master preserves the tokens from the first Master.
He is being overwhelmed. Double evolution there by the Raptor, of course. Once we do get all these elementals into play.
This is not the first time on camera that we have run out of water horses.
I was going to say, it's rare to see that happen, but yet here we are. Get our game state up to snuff. That's a lot of those.
So he has 14 total, 6 from the first one and 8 from the second one. And so I think we can comfortably send in, I think he's willing to see if he's willing to send in the weirds as well.
Here comes the judge.
Again, remember those are 3 2s as there are 2 copies of Master Waves in play.
And here come the weirds too, I think. I think the weirds are a safe attack, yeah.
Yeah, Todd almost certainly just has to block the 3 power creatures, so, you know, this is 2 free points by attacking.
Discard a Thoughtseize, here's a rat token. We'll see how Anderson wants to block. Looks like he does have to block 4 of those. I'm sure he would like to block those Frostmourne Warriors and act on the devotion count, but he just can't afford to do that.
Yeah, it's too much damage.
Anderson goes down to 6. He's going to take a draw here. Not sure what he can find. Underworld Connections is not in. He's going to extend the hand. Bradley Jones is going to defeat Todd Anderson 2-1. Mono Blue Devotion going to move on to 3-0. Looks a little bit like last weekend.
Well, Mono Blue, bit of a misnumber here as he actually has 2 copies of Hero's Downfall in his deck.
Yep.
So